Welcome back to my channel. This is Jacqueline Edwards, and as always, I am delighted that you are here. I want to continue the conversation this week around God's redemptive love. And when He says in Genesis, I bless you to be fruitful, I bless you to multiply and replenish the earth. And I shared in my previous videos where I will encourage you to go back and watch those videos. In those videos, I talked about growing up in Jamaica and around so many fruit trees. And so it really came alive to me in such a beautiful way when the Lord said, I bless you to be fruitful. And because of my curious nature and love to ask questions, I start to ask the Lord, what does that mean? And how can I be fruitful if I don't see myself as a tree, if I don't see myself surviving enough to produce this fruit? And so I've been building on using the analogy of the mangoes and sharing how in Jamaica, we are privileged to see the maggots or the worms that go inside the mango. And I relate that to trauma, to say that in all of us, we are traumatized in some way or another. And so I share how, just knowing Christ and my journey with Christ have transformed me in so many different areas of my life. And the first thing I had to do was to really identify those areas where I'm broken and just really partner with the Lord to help me. So today I'm going to be talking about my journey with education. Starting January, I will be pursuing a master's degree in pastoral studies with a concentration in digital communications. Now, how did I get here? How did I get here? Well, I want to take you on my journey with education. And it's a central theme in my book, in my memoir, of how my story started living with my grandparents in rural Jamaica. I started school. I was a brilliant little girl. I grasped concept easily. I mean, I was a teacher's help, right? So I would go around the classroom and helping the other students, and I felt good. I loved learning. I love what learning did for me, how it expanded my mind. It has expanded my mind to ask questions and try to figure out and solve problems, right? And then in addition to that, I love helping, I love sharing. So imagine this happening between 5 and 8 years old, knowing I knew my potential. I knew what I was capable of. But shortly after my 8th birthday, I was moved from my grandparents, and my life just went from one trauma to the next, moving from house to house in Jamaica. And then later on, I came to the United States. So I just never recovered. I never recovered. You and I know that when it comes to education, time is moving, years are moving, and so you have to keep up. Well, that ability to grasp concept, I lost that over time. And it really made me angry because I knew my potential. I knew what I was capable of. So imagine when my life start raveling now, how do I get back? How do I get back? And so, as I continued on, I became a single mom of 2 children and couldn't help them with their homework, and I had to get them tutors. I had to get them just all kind of help. I went and seek help because I wanted to help them or to do whatever I could to move them forward. So just fast forward again, my daughter went to university, and in 2017 at her graduation, I watched, and I remember it so vividly. I watched my daughter preparing for graduation, and when she crossed that stage, I wept. I literally wept. I don't say cry, I wept. It was tears of joy. It was tears of joy to see my daughter crossing that stage. I get to see what it's like when a child have a parent who believe in their education, who believe in who they can become and do everything necessary, right, to make that happen. And then in the midst of my joy, I was upset. I was angry because I thought about my own life and I saw a child who was a seed that came from me progressing, and I said to myself, what if I had parents who would stick by me and was there for me in that capacity? But the reality is I didn't. And so after my daughter and my son, they moved on and went on to starting their lives and starting their journey. I took matters in my hand and I started reading. I started teaching myself how to read in the comfort of my home. I would just go to the library and I would just rent all these books and I would lay across my bed and attempting to teach myself to read, to grasp concept. So it wasn't that I couldn't read. I just had a little issue with comprehension. And that's the most important part, because it's one thing to read something, but if you don't understand what you're reading, then it really doesn't make sense, right? So that's the area there I needed to work on. So I decided to parent myself and I decided to just start. Now, my daughter graduated in 2017. I had no idea that in 2018 that the Lord would send me back to school. I remember it vividly. I had just got back from Jamaica and the Lord said to me, write down your characteristics, write down what you know about yourself. And after I have done that, the voice said to me, now it's time for you to go back to school. Oh, I didn't think it was possible. But anyway, I journeyed on. I was obedient. I went through, got accepted. And the entire 4 years in university, I was shocked. I could not believe. Let me tell you something. When the Lord leads us, it's hard to comprehend. Even in our obedience, when the results happen, it's like shocking. It's mind blowing, because he does this by himself. He leads us and then he reveals everything. So here I am, 4 years in university, just feeling like a ghost, walking around campus because I didn't think it was real. I didn't think that God loved me enough to give me a second chance at education. So when I graduated from college, I was like, oh my God. I remember walking across the stage and I was like, oh my God, is this thing really real? It doesn't feel real. Are they going to really call my name, right? So I graduated. But here's the thing. All through that 4 years of university, I struggled. And I remember vividly, sometimes the Lord would just say to me, you know what? Go to sleep. You're taking a test in the morning, I will give you the answers. I will give you. But if you rest, I can speak through you. Go to sleep and rest, and I will give you the answers. And class after class, I was passing. But I found it very ironic that my last semester of university, I got it on the dean's list. And I thought, well, that's really strange. Of all the semesters, I got the dean's list. And this is during COVID, so you can only imagine the pressure and the stress, right? So I thought to myself, when I saw that I graduated with a 3.0 GPA, I said, Lord, you're not done. You're not done. But the thing is, my degree was in psychology, and there's a lot of aspects about psychology I loved. I think that psychology helped to answer many questions to things that I've actually pondered before about trauma, about what I've been through, and it really helped to give me context of how most of these trauma starts in childhood. So it was more of a personal thing for me. As I said, I came up with more understanding. But there were aspects about psychology that I really didn't gravitate to. I didn't like that Jesus was not mentioned, or faith in general. And so with it being a big part of my life, I felt like that was missing. And I was missing that. It's like your soul wants to glorify God, but in the midst of that classroom setting, you cannot just shout out glory, hallelujah, look what the Lord has done for me. And so I had a little issue with that. So even though I had this 3.0 GPA, I didn't know what I wanted to pursue after. And it wasn't until recently I was having just conversations with friends and I realized, oh my goodness, I can go back to school for pastoral studies. And then when I saw the concentration in digital communication, I thought, wow, this is it. But that 3.0 GPA is what the Lord gave me. And I knew that He wanted me to continue. So I gave you all that to say, in these areas that we're broken, the first thing is to recognize them. The second thing is to say, Lord, help me in this area. Because if we don't identify where we're traumatized, if we don't identify it and confess it to the Lord and ask the Lord to help us, we will live a life of lack in that particular area. It's so beautiful to be vulnerable to God. It's so beautiful to say, you know what? I recognize that this is a shortcoming. This is a limitation in my life. Help me, Father. Help me and help me to help myself. So I look at it and I say, my God, look at me looking at my daughter, not realizing that that was what spurred me into taking matters into my own hands. And then the Lord partners with me and say, okay, this is a desire you have. Let's move forward. Let's take you forward. So I just want to encourage you in this video that wherever you're limited, give it to the Lord. Let Him help you to transform that area into your life. If you had told me 2 years ago, 4 years, 6 years ago that I would be in university, I would not believe you. But this is the grace of God. That when I see that little maggot, that little worm that came in and eat up my joy, eat up my childhood joy for learning, the Lord has redeemed it. He has healed it and He has restored it. So I hope this message bless you today. Continue to watch my videos, continue to share. I really appreciate it. So until next time, you have a fantastic week. God bless you.